Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Sun Devil Extra. This is the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network program that shines a spotlight on the teams, athletes, coaches, and stories making news in Arizona State University's Sun Devil athletics. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of Sun Devil football, men's basketball, and baseball, and it's my privilege to be your host each and every week. This week, we're going to take a deep dive into the Sun Devil women's basketball program, which is coming off its first Pac-12 win of the 2023-2024 season. The win came this past Sunday at Washington, 73-65, the Sun Devils prevailing over the Huskies. We will visit later in this show with second-year ASU head coach Natasha Adair to get her thoughts on the win over Washington, and we will also chat with a young lady who has become one of the emerging stars in women's basketball and in the Pac-12 Conference, as Sun Devil guard Jalyn Brown will drop by and join us. But first, a quick recap of the week in Sun Devil athletics, and we start with men's basketball. And a share of first place in the Pac-12 Conference will be on the line this coming Thursday night at Matthew Knight Arena in Eugene, Oregon, when Coach Bobby Hurley's Sun Devil men's basketball team takes on the Oregon Ducks. Oregon, Arizona State, and Arizona are all tied for first place in the Pac-12 entering this week with 5-2 conference records. The Sun Devils got to 5-2 by splitting a pair of home games last week. A tough 68-66 loss to the UCLA Bruins last Thursday night, a game in which ASU let a 15-point lead slip away amidst a barrage of technical fouls, 4 of them called on the Sun Devils in that game, followed by a terrific bounce-back 82-67 win over the USC Trojans on Saturday in front of a raucous near-sellout crowd of nearly 14,000 at Desert Financial Arena. Now, this weekend, the Sun Devils play at Oregon Thursday with tip-off time at 7 p.m. Arizona time, and then Saturday it's on to Corvallis to take on the Oregon State Beavers in a 5 p.m. Arizona time tip. Kyle Dodd and I will be along with the Sun Devils on their trip along the Oregon Trail, and we'll bring you all the action of both games on the Sun Devil Radio Network and Arizona Sports 98.7 FM, with the game also streaming on ArizonaSports.com and on the AZ Sports app. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6:30 Arizona time Thursday night from Eugene, and pregame coverage begins at 4:30 Saturday afternoon from Corvallis. The 18th-ranked Sun Devil hockey team earned a split of its 2 home games this past weekend at Mullet Arena, taking on Augustana University of South Dakota. The Sun Devils lost a heartbreaker 5-4 on Friday night, with the Vikings scoring a goal in the final seconds of play to come away with the win. But then Coach Greg Power's squad bounced back nicely on Saturday with a 3-2 win over Augustana, as Brian Chambers scored the game-winning goal, and goalie Gibson Homer stopped 27 Viking shots. That win ended a 3-game Sun Devil losing streak. ASU is off this weekend, but will hit the ice again next weekend, staying home at Mullet Arena to take on Lindenwood University of Missouri. Games on Friday and Saturday, February 2nd and 3rd. It was a solid weekend in the Bay Area for the number 1 ranked Sun Devil men's swimming team last weekend, as the ASU men defeated 10th ranked Stanford on Friday and then tied the 3rd ranked and 2-time defending national champion Cal Golden Bears on Saturday in Berkeley. Against Stanford, Sun Devil freshman Ilya Karoun, recently named the World Junior Male Swimmer of the Year, broke his own record, his own ASU record in the 200 butterfly with a time of 1 minute 37.93 seconds. And then at Cal, Hungarian Zolan Sharkan broke the Arizona State record in the 1,000 free for the 3rd consecutive meet. The 19th-ranked Sun Devil women's swim team lost their 2 meets at Stanford and Cal, although Arizona State's Lindsay Looney did win the 200 fly in both meets, and at Stanford, Lindsay posted the 2nd fastest time in ASU history, 1 minute 52.61 seconds. Staying in the water for a moment, if you will, the ASU women's water polo team opened its season with 4 consecutive wins last weekend at the Mona Plummer Aquatic Center as the Sun Devils outscored the opposition 74-24 in the 4 contests against Cal Lutheran, 20th ranked Wagner University, Loyola Marymount, and Salem University. Senior Lutza Patovari had 17 goals and 7 assists in the 4 games, while sophomore Millie Quinn had 15 goals and 5 assists for ASU. Next up for water polo, a meet 2 weeks from now, the Triton Invite at the University of California, San Diego on February 2nd through the 4th. Sun Devil athletes earned 3 event titles and posted 10 top 3 finishes last weekend at the Ted Nelson Track and Field Invitational in College Station, Texas. The Sun Devil men's 4x400 relay team came within 0.4 of a second of posting the fastest time in the nation this year in that event, as the Sun Devil men finished with a time of 3 minutes, 5.54 seconds. Other ASU event winners over the weekend, Danielle Slowly won the women's shot put, while Caleb Simpson took the men's 200-meter dash. Track and field will be back at Texas A&M in 2 weeks to compete at the Charlie Thomas Invitational on February 2nd and 3rd. A couple of other quick Sun Devil sports headlines from this past weekend, led by season-high scores in the vault and floor exercise. The 24th ranked Sun Devil women's gymnastics team prevailed in a tri-meet last Friday night in Cedar City, Utah. ASU's second straight meet score over 196 enabled the Sun Devils to top Utah State and the host school, the 25th ranked Southern Utah Thunderbirds. Sun Devil Wrestling split a pair of matches over the weekend on the road, falling at Little Rock 18-15 before posting a dramatic 21-20 win at Pittsburgh on Sunday. Trailing 20-14 entering the final match at Pitt, Sun Devil heavyweight Colton Schultz won his match by default, and then the Sun Devils earned the winning point on criteria to take the 1-point victory. It was a mixed weekend of results, or a weekend of mixed results, I guess we should say, for Sun Devil tennis. The Sun Devil women blanked Fresno State 7-0, led by reigning Pac-12 Player of the Week Julia Morley, who won her match in straight sets 6-2, 6-3. The ASU men, however, saw a late rally come up short in a 4-3 loss to 25th ranked Baylor last Thursday at the Whiteman Tennis Center. Both programs will be on the road this weekend. The Sun Devil women will be in Columbus, Ohio for a 2-meet event. They will, or a 2-match event. They will take on Kansas on Saturday and then either Ohio State or Notre Dame on Sunday. The Sun Devil men will be playing in the ITA kickoff weekend event in Starkville, Mississippi, taking on Florida State and an opponent, TBA. Coming up, we will visit with second-year ASU women's basketball head coach Natasha Adair. But first, these messages. This is Sun Devil Extra from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. We continue now with this week's installment of Sun Devil Extra from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. I'm Tim Healey, your host. Glad you joined us this week. You know, one of the highlights of this past weekend in Sun Devil athletics was a terrific performance on the road by the Arizona State women's basketball team, resulting in the Sun Devils' first Pac-12 win of the season, a 73-65 victory over the Washington Huskies at Heck Edmondson Pavilion in Seattle, as the Devils were led by the brilliant 34-point performance of guard Jalyn Brown. Here with us this week to reflect back on Sunday's win at Washington and to fill us in on her 2023-2024 Sun Devil squad is second-year Arizona State head coach Natasha Adair. Great to see you, Coach. How you been?
Tim, glad to be here. Been busy.
It's that time of year, right?
It is that time of year, but so grateful to sit here with you and talk about our squad. Our young squad, but a squad that's fighting, as you can see, and growing and just persevering in so many different ways. So really looking forward to sharing some stories about them today.
Yeah, perseverance, I think, is the word. I mean, put yourself in the kids' frame of mind. 6 straight Pac-12 losses to open the season. and yet they continue to hang in there and battle, and it paid off on Sunday. It had to have been a really satisfying win for you and your group.
It was, and you know, in building a culture and with our team especially, you know, the players have just gone through so much, and having a roster, 15-player roster, you just say, okay, next player up, and I think that's just been the testament of just every day in practice and working towards the moment. The losses, absolutely, they're gut wrenching, right? You know, you play every game to win, but you grow. And we just kept telling them 40 full minutes. You saw 20 early, then they 25, 30. They just kept creeping. And even the night before when we went against Washington State, we played phenomenally the second, third, and fourth quarter. But you have to start ready to go at the tip. And so those are the things that in teaching and coaching and prepping them and building them, I just thought, you know, on Sunday, they really put it all together. Beautiful, obviously, performance by Jalyn Brown, but there were so many other players that were the supporting cast. I mean, I thought Jaden Simmons she's just been a phenomenal leader for our group. Not going to be the loudest in the room, but she's going to be the most efficient in her work, in her discipline, in her effort, in her leadership. And just her defense on Sunday, it was from start to finish. You know, I just thought it was tough. I thought it was intentional. I thought it was disruptive, all the words that we talk about. But then, you know, Mallory Miller, I think she's come on over the last really 2 weeks. Her performances, but she's a freshman, so it's starting to make sense. This is the first wave of conference play. I just think the light bulb, Tim, is starting to come on. Wow. Isadora Sosa, she's been sidelined due to injury. She is another veteran, hasn't logged a lot of minutes here, but again, leadership, IQ, poise out there on the court. And so Trayana Crisp, I know we're going to get to talk about all of them, but she grew up, I think, a year ago. She played a lot late, but she had a nagging knee injury. This year, she kind of went down, missed the Washington State game because played 3 minutes, went out with a shoulder injury. We could have used those 16 points,
Sure.
you know, and so this group has had a different lineup pretty much every night since November.
Wow.
And the resilience of this group, the toughness of this group, and like I said, with Jaden leading the way in the sense of the player who's logged the most minutes, everyone else, for the most part, is in a new role with the team. So I'm proud of them.
As well you should be. And to me, one of the most compelling aspects of Sunday's win is that you put up 73 points. That's about 20 points more than Washington allows per game. The Huskies came into Sunday's game 7th nationally in scoring defense, allowing 52 points per game. Arizona State puts up 73 in the win. What makes the Huskies so tough to score on, and how were you able to get those 73 on the board?
Well, I've known Coach Tina Langley for a long time, even before she took over at Washington. I remember when she was at Maryland. I remember when she was at Rice. So, you know, she was on the East Coast with me for a little while. And her team, they're very disciplined in the system in which they run, right? They run kind of a continuity offense, the Princeton offense, and they literally want to tire you out. So you have to be disciplined defensively to guard for those 30 seconds because they'll make you pay if you stand up at 28. And so we talked to our players about that, and our players were locked in to the game plan. Coach Camille Collier did a phenomenal scout, but we were ready. And so our players, what everyone saw on game day, this is what we practice. We knew where the openings were going to be offensively. We knew we had to have patience and poise and give up the good shot for the great shot, move the ball, share the ball. Player movement, ball movement was key. And then defensively, we knew that once we secured the stop, that we could get out in transition, that we could put pressure on them to guard. And we saw matchups within our offense where we could expose them defensively. And we took advantage of those matchups. And so I just think it was a great team effort. It was a total team effort. And it showed just in all phases throughout the night.
It was a team effort led by one of the emerging stars in the Pac-12 Conference and one of the top scorers in the league, Sun Devil guard Jalyn Brown, a transfer from Louisville, who is fifth in the league in scoring at over 17 points per game, including 8 20-point games, 2 30-point games, including her 34 in Seattle. Talk about Jalyn. I know she's called Ice by all her teammates.
And I'll let you tell her. I won't spoil that secret. I'll let her tell you about it.
For whatever it's worth, my daughter and son-in-law have a dog named Ice.
Okay.
It's a popular nickname, I guess.
She's special, and not just because of her scoring ability, but again, character first. I mean, to be able to come into a program, transfer into a program and just fit. I mean, it was a seamless transition for her. She's a team first, right? Teammate first, cares about her team, works extremely hard. When you see her, she always has a smile on her face, just shares really good energy with the group and really makes others better around her. I mean, she would rather celebrate her teammates more than celebrate herself. I mean, she's always in the gym, in the locker room, high-fiving a teammate, just really getting excited for them. And so you see it reciprocated. Every time she scored, the bench is up, they're cheering for her. But within the contents of what we do, I mean, it was I don't want to say it was effortless, but it was effortless. It was like watching Ice play is like poetry in motion. I mean, she's a 3-level scorer. She makes it really hard for any defense. And right now, I just think that she's just scratching the surface on how great she's going to be. But I'm just super proud of her, very coachable, really applies what you teach her and tell her immediately. And you don't see that in every player. Doesn't really get down on herself. I mean, just when the lights come on, it's time. I mean, she shines, and I'm grateful that she said yes. And I'm excited to just see her perform and help our team, but just a special person and a player.
And her emergence as a scorer has been critical this year because the Sun Devils have played this entire season and will play the remainder of this season without their leading scorer of a year ago, Ty Skinner, going down with a preseason knee injury. So Ice's performance coming up as a big-time scorer has just been critical for your squad.
It has, but I just hope everyone can share in this vision of what we're building and what we're creating. It was not by accident, having Ty and going out and getting Ice, both prolific scorers, talents. I mean, I call them pros in the making, for sure. And so that's how we're building, this roster here and this culture. So again, with Ty out, definitely Ice is stepping up, but there's so many other players that I think are submerging this year as well. So.
And you mentioned it before, but Ty Skinner's injury is not the only one you've had to deal with this year. Different lineups practically every game.
Yeah, I don't, knock on wood, Tim, I don't know. And I think teams are facing this across the country.
Yeah.
When you go online, on social media, you see a lot of teams dealing with this. And I think that the benefit of our team and our roster this year versus a year ago is we have more bodies. Last year, we had to forfeit games because we just didn't have enough bodies when they went down. But, Marasha Wiggins, came in, transfer from North Carolina, played in the first 6 games this season, and again was sidelined due to another ACL injury.
Wow.
And when I talk about the team that, beat South Florida, a tournament team, Treasure Hunt was on the court. Marasha Wiggins was on the court. Maggie Besselink was on the court. Those 3 currently aren't on the court. And so what does that mean? Mallory Miller, it's time to step up. What does that mean? Sandra Magalico, it's time to step up. Other players, when your name is called, it's time to step up. Addison Novosel, step up.
Yeah.
And so I just think that the work that everyone is doing in practice is allowing them to step into these roles maybe sooner than expected, but ready. And right here, kind of in the first go-round of Pac-12 play, they're getting that experience. They're learning real time. And I'm very proud of their response and their resolve, even in adversity.
So now the stage is set for what figures to be a big weekend of basketball as the Sun Devils, for one of the few times in this stretch where they're playing 7 out of 9 on the road.
Yes.
The 2 home games in that stretch will be this weekend. And how about the opener to the weekend? Friday night, hosting the always powerful 6th-ranked Stanford Cardinal, but it's a Stanford team whose head coach made history
Yes.
on Sunday night as Tara Vanderveer recorded the 1,203rd victory of her brilliant coaching career at Stanford, making her the NCAA's all-time leader in college basketball coaching wins, men or women. She broke the previous record held by longtime Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski at 1,203. She's going to try for 1,204 against your team on Friday night. But just talk about what Tara achieved and what it will be like for you competing against her this coming Friday, with her coming off that huge record-breaking win over Oregon State the other night.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, what Tara means to the game, you know, just a pioneer, trendsetter. I mean, what she's fought for women's basketball and just Title IX. I mean, everything that she stands for in the game. I will tell you, when I first got in the league, the first phone call was from Tara.
Wow.
Welcoming me to the Pac-12, letting me know, hey, you're with the best, and you've earned that, and congratulations. And so whatever you need moving forward, aside from us on game day, right? I'm here for you. And even through the first year of injuries, she said, other coaches have been through it. You're not the only one. When we won our first game this year, congratulations on the win. You know, I mean, just first class. And you don't get that from every coach. I've been doing this for 27 years. And you don't get that phone call. And that just speaks to who she is as a person. And so when she broke the record, obviously, I texted her. And, you know, her response was, thank you for taking the time to text me. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so when Friday's game comes, it's not a matter of being starstruck. It's time to play. It's time to compete.
Right.
But you do respect what she means to the game, what she's done for women's basketball, but just the example that she sets. You know, for her to have started out at a time where, you know, Stanford wasn't where it is now.
Right.
But what she's done, I remember when they said, someone interviewed her and she talked about her first win, you know, when she was coaching. And she said her first response was, wow, this is hard, you know. And over time, you know, she just worked to build it and build it. And she said the biggest thing, her takeaway is what she gets to pour into the student athletes, the young people.
Yeah.
And that's just who she is. She's someone who gives. And she gives so much of herself. Doesn't want all the accolades, doesn't want all the noise, but has earned everyone's respect.
Yeah.
And so nothing but congratulations to her for what she's done.
If I'm not mistaken, I think she's 70 years old, and she says she's been coaching. She's been a head coach since she was 24.
Yes.
Can you imagine that?
Yes.
That's something else.
That's a long time.
And so her team will be here Friday evening. It'll be a 6 p.m. tip, but let's not forget the Sunday game this weekend, a 12 noon home matchup against an always solid Cal team.
Correct. Charmin has done a phenomenal job this year. Her team's playing hard. They're competing, and I'm excited to see us. I know, you know, we talked about what Tara has accomplished, and, you know, Charmin has always been a really good friend of mine and a competitor in this league. But I like where our group is right now. I think the biggest thing for our team is knowing that they can do it. You know, it's hard to see it when we're saying you can and it's not translating into those wins.
Sure.
But watching them earn that win, it wasn't, you know, Washington didn't have a bad night. Our team came ready to play and made it hard for them. And knowing that they were proud of their effort, their discipline, their focus, and players stepping up and making big plays and being gamers when the lights come on, I think it just gives them a confidence as it would anyone else. And so we're at home. We're glad to be back at home with our fans. And so it doesn't matter who the opponent is. There will be a strategy in place. Our players will execute it. But right now, I just think the confidence of all of our players on the floor, they're really excited and ready to go, and they will be ready for Friday, and they will be ready for Sunday. So it's for us, it's always going to be, what do we need to do to win? So for us, it's a 2-0 weekend at home.
You won't want to miss it. Friday night, Tara Vanderveer in the 6th-ranked Stanford Cardinal here for a 6 p.m. tip, and then it'll be a 12 noon tip on Sunday for ASU and Cal. If you can't make it out, we've got you covered on the Sun Devil Radio Network, as Jeff Munn and Maura McHugh will be courtside and bring you all the action of both games on KDUS 1060 AM and the Sun Devil Radio Network. Pre-game coverage will start at 5:30 on Friday afternoon, and then again at 11:30 on Sunday morning for ASU's matchups with Cal and Stanford. Natasha, always great to catch up with you. Best of luck this weekend, and hopefully the gals can keep it going the rest of the season.
Yes, Tim, thank you so much.
Sun Devil head basketball coach Natasha Adair with us here on this segment of Sun Devil Extra. Coming up, we will close out this week's show with a visit with one of the emerging stars in women's basketball in the Pac-12 Conference, as Sun Devil guard Jalyn Brown will join us. But first, these messages. This is Sun Devil Extra from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. We welcome you back to the final segment of this week's edition of Sun Devil Extra from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of Sun Devil football, men's basketball, and baseball. Delighted to be your host this week. As we continue our discussion of Sun Devil women's basketball on this week's show, we are joined by the young lady who is emerging right before our eyes as one of the Pac-12's and the nation's top scorers in women's basketball. She's currently the 5th leading scorer in the Pac-12 with a 17 points per game average. She is coming off a 34-point performance in ASU's win at Washington this past Sunday in Seattle. It was her second 30-point game of the season and her 8th game scoring 20 or more points in one contest. She's a native from my neck of the woods, Baltimore, Maryland, a transfer from the University of Louisville. We are delighted to welcome Jalyn Brown to the show. How are you, Jalyn? It's great to see you.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You're going through quite a stretch right now. You've really hit your stride as a scorer, haven't you?
Yes.
What have been the key factors, in your opinion, in your terrific play of late?
Just to stay composed and to understand what my team needs me to do at that moment. I feel like a lot of different teams are going to scout you differently, so just making sure you understand, what type of scoring day it is. Mm-hmm. So for me, my coach does have me as a scorer, but I just honestly want to contribute in any way that I can. Scoring just happens to be a way that I'm pretty good at. So.
Yeah, I'd say so. Take us back to that game at Washington on Sunday in Seattle. We talked with your coach, Natasha Adair, in the previous segment about how the Huskies came into that game as one of the top teams in the nation in scoring defense, and you were able to put 20 points on the board, an extra 20 more than what they give up per game, and including your 34. What were some of the keys in the team's success at Washington Sunday?
Honestly, I think the energy before the game, like everybody was locked in. We knew what the scouting report was. We knew what we were going to do. So when we got out there, shots are falling. The energy is just filling the air. I think Washington did a good job at playing defense. However, I feel like we were more locked in when it came to, offensively and things like that. So just understanding what they were giving. If they were giving the shot, that's what we were taking. We were making the one more pass, getting open looks, getting everybody engaged. And I think when that happens, everybody's confident and they know that you believe in them, so they're going to do their job. And I think our team did a phenomenal job at, making sure that we were all locked in together, playing together.
Now, obviously, the team had lost its first 6 Pac-12 games going into the Washington game. What is it about your group that enabled you to just continue to chip away, persevere, keep working hard, and finally getting the rewards of your effort with a great win on Sunday?
Well, for me personally, I think that this team is very young and we persevered through a lot of things. I feel like we're all still learning each other. We're all still figuring it out. But I also feel like we see the potential that we have in our team. So there's never going to be a moment where we're going to quit. There's never going to be a moment where we're going to be, we're going to lose. Never that with this group. I feel like we always look at the game as a new game. It's a new team, and that's how we carry it. So just being prepared to play whoever else we have to play and making sure we're back at the drawing board, figuring what we need to figure out and just moving forward.
How important was it, though, for the group to get that reward, to get the victory? I mean, it's great to keep working hard, but at some point you want to see the so-called fruits of your labor, and you and your teammates were able to get that with a big win on Sunday.
I think it was just exciting. You work so hard every day, every week, and you just, like you said, you want to see those outcomes. So I feel like when, we're figuring it out, we're in the game, we realize, oh, the time's running out, we're getting the win. It was just really exciting, and I felt like for our young ones, I'm technically a young one. I say that all the time. Coach A always says, you're not that old. But for our younger teammates, I think it was just amazing to see, like, we can do this. Like, it's not difficult. Washington's a great team with a great coach. So for us to beat a team like that, it was just honestly, like, it was rewarding. That's the only word. And it was just really fun.
Oh, absolutely. Really cool. And it had to be even more fun with all the adversity your team has gone through. Like Natasha pointed out, you've had so many different starting lineups this year because of injury. From a player standpoint, what's that been like to deal with?
It's crazy, honestly, but I would say we prepare for everything, every situation, every possible lineup. We've already been through it. So I feel like for that game, when we understand, okay, this is going to be the starting lineup for this game, you just have to adjust, understand what player you're playing with for this game in the lineup, and just making those adjustments. We have Maggie, who plays really, really hard, and then we have Izzy. She's like the Magic Johnson of our team. That's what we call her. So it's like every other game, you're just getting a new plus. It's just like, what's the plus going to be this game? So honestly, I don't mind it. I think it's pretty cool. But I wish that I did have my teammates playing with me for sure.
And I know one teammate you wish you had playing with you is Ty Skinner. You're the Sun Devils' leading scorer a year ago, who is out for the season because of a knee injury. Did you feel pressure or a sense that I've got to step up and become a scorer with Ty being out this year?
Well, I knew for a fact that with Ty being out, we were going to have to pick it up somewhere. Now, Ty's a very big gap to fill, I will say that, but just understanding, okay, what does Coach A need me to do? Coach A needs me to score, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my best to do whatever she needs me to do and do whatever the team needs me to do. So with Ty being out, it is a little difficult, I would say, but I feel like it's preparing us because next year it's going to be very scary. That's how I feel.
I was going to say, can you imagine a Sun Devil lineup with Ty and Ice in the same lineup?
Yes,
have you let yourself look ahead to next year that way?
Yes. Also, I haven't played with Ty. This would have been my first time playing with Ty, but I've known Ty for a couple of years now. So just seeing how it all planned out, the DMV with the DMV coach coming together, it's crazy. And
now you got a DMV show host too.
See, there we go.
I'm from that area for sure. So that's awesome. My highly placed sources tell me that there is a story behind your nickname of Ice. Can you care to share?
Yes, of course. So I started playing basketball around 4th, 5th grade, and I had this coach. His name was Michael Bozeman. He coached me throughout high school, for about 2 years. But in the process of me being young, I was learning how to do layups, the regular package deal, and I was like finger rolling the ball off of my finger. Now, I was not doing this intentionally. It just happened to be a thing that I started to do. I guess that's just how I learned to shoot my layups. And I was linky and I was long. So he started calling me Ice after the Iceman, George Gerving. So at first he was like, George Gerving. And I'm like, who is that? I'm in the 5th grade. I have no idea. So I had to go back and do my research. But after figuring out who it was, I wasn't disappointed about who he was comparing me to. So it was
Trust me, I am old enough that I saw a lot of the Iceman, George Gervin. Great player. Longest arms, I think, in the NBA.
Longest arms.
The finger roll was a key component of his game. And he was a great player for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yes,
so trust me, you need to be flattered with that nickname because that is a great comp. And speaking of great names, your team on Friday night is going to play against one of the best teams in the country. You're going to play them at home, 6th-ranked Stanford, but you're going up against a legendary coach in Tara Vanderveer, the game after she made college basketball history with her record-setting 1,203rd career victory, eclipsing Mike Krzyzewski as the winningest college basketball coach of all time, men or women. What will be that like for you? What will it be like to compete in a game against a literally legendary head coach?
I think honestly, for me, it's a blessing just to be surrounded by such great people. In the basketball world, you meet so many new people. So just to be able to play against her, I think, is a beautiful opportunity. Me personally, we're going to handle it like another game, another component. The coach heard multiple amazing things about her, and what she's accomplished is actually tremendous, and I've never seen or heard of anything like it. So I'm just excited, honestly. We're going to go at it like a regular game. Love you, Coach, but we got to play it. So it's just going to be really, really fun and a new opportunity for us as a team to prove ourselves to the rest of the Pac-12.
Well put. Now, you began your career at Louisville, entered the transfer portal, and came to Arizona State. Take us through your decision-making process. What led you to decide to enter the portal, and what drew you out here to Tempe?
Me personally, I feel like every coach, they have a way that they coach, they have a system that they play. I just felt like Louisville wasn't the best fit for me. I did have a broken nose, so I ended up getting medically redshirted for the rest of the year, so I may have a chance to get that year back. But for me, I just wanted to go to a family atmosphere where I knew the coach was going to push me to be the best that I can be. And Coach A, I call her Mama A. That's my mama. So I call her Mama A. But they've been recruiting me since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. They've been recruiting me since I was probably in about 8th grade when they were at Delaware, things like that. So I knew going into the portal, like I was going to be looking for a coach who I knew would take me under their wing and treat me like their child. Essentially, as a parent, you want your child to go away knowing that they're safe, knowing that they're happy. And I knew that Coach A would bring that for me. Also, I knew that there was an opportunity here for me to just do what I do best. And so when it came to entering the portal, I seen Coach A. Of course, there were other schools as well. But what stuck out to me here was just the way that she cares for her team and the way that she works. Like, you don't see a lot of coaches who put the same heart into it like Coach A does. Yeah. And just for me as a player, like, it was just exciting, and I knew I wanted to play for her.
Well, Ice comes from Baltimore, or to make her feel at home, Baltimore, Maryland. But clearly you feel at home. I was going to ask you what it's like being so far away from home, but it sounds like you got a home here, don't you?
I think that when you're surrounded by people you love and when you're surrounded by, just great teammates, it feels like home anywhere. I mean, it is a little far. I'm not going to lie. The 6-hour flight is crazy going back home.
Yeah.
But just to be out here with people who genuinely care about you, you don't feel homesick very much. My mom's like, "You don't want to come home?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine. It's hot here." So I'm great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you keep up the great work because you're playing terrific basketball right now, and I really think there are great days ahead for the Sun Devil women's program with you in the lineup. Great to see you, Jalyn. Thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you.
That's Sun Devil guard Jalyn Brown, our guest on this segment of Sun Devil Extra. And with that, we drop the curtain on this week's show, and we thank you for joining us. Our thanks to our executive producer, Arizona State Senior Associate Athletic Director Doug Tamaro. Thanks as well to our terrific engineer producer, Sean Crespin of the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network for his help on the broadcast. We will be back next week with another edition of Sun Devil Extra, and we hope you'll make plans to join us sometime during the week. Till then, I'm Tim Healey. Thanks for joining us. So long, everybody.